Her husband is dead, so what? Rules don't cry. Those words came out of the mouth of a 42-year-old man standing in my courtroom at Providence Municipal Court. I could still hear the sharp bite of them in the air, like someone snapping a dry branch in winter. I was sitting up on the bench, my hands folded, trying to keep my face calm. I'm Judge Frank Caprio. I've heard excuses, anger, and even lies. But that sentence was different. It wasn't just rude, it was cold. The man who said it wore a bright white designer jacket that looked like it had never seen rain. His hair was slicked back so tight it shined under the courtroom lights. His watch was heavy and gold, the kind that flashes when you move your hand. His eyes were not sad or scared. They were bored, like he was waiting for a waiter, not a judge. And across from him, at the defendant's table, sat a woman who looked like she had been carrying a mountain on her back. Her shoulders were curled in, her hands were tight around a small black purse, like it was the last thing keeping her steady. I could see grief on her face. Grief means deep sadness after losing someone you love. It leaves you hollow, like a house after a fire. The air in the room felt thick. If you believe justice should be equal for everyone, you'll want to see what happens next. Case after case, day after day, I try to remember one thing. Every person who walks in here is living a story I can't fully see. But that morning, I was about to see two stories crash into each other like cars in a storm, and only one of them was going to walk away unchanged. Villain Damon Klein, 42. He is tall, clean-shaven, with a sharp jaw and a smile that looks like it was practiced in a mirror. He smells like expensive cologne and talks like the world owes him favors. He wears designer clothes, carries a phone worth more than some people's rent, and he uses jokes like knives. Victim, Marisol Vega, 33. She is a home health aide who helps older people bathe, eat, and take their medicine. Her eyes are tired, her clothes are plain, and her voice is soft. She is a new widow, still wearing a simple black scarf from her husband's funeral. She has 2 kids and a stack of bills she can't keep up with. Crime, a parking ticket issued the day after Marisol's husband's funeral. Her car was parked in a no parking tow zone near the church because the funeral ran late and the lot was full. Unique twist. The ticket was written by a private lot enforcer hired by Damon's family business, and Damon shows up in court to teach her a lesson because he claims her car blocked his VIP client. The evidence reveals Damon pushed for the ticket after he saw funeral flowers in her back seat. Act 1. Setup. The bailiff stood tall and called out in a clear voice. Case 2026 TR 4187, Marisol Vega. Marisol stood slowly. Her knees looked weak, like they might fold. She took one step, then another, as if each move cost her something. I looked at her file, then looked up at her. Good morning, Ms. Vega, I said. I'm Judge Caprio. Tell me what brings you here today. Her lips trembled. She swallowed hard. Good morning, Your Honor, she said. Her voice was thin. I got a ticket for parking near St. Bridget's Church. I was at my husband's funeral the day before, and the day after. We had people coming from out of town. The lot was full. I parked where I shouldn't have. I know that. Her eyes dropped to the table. I didn't think. I wasn't thinking right. I nodded. I've seen that look before. It's the look of someone who woke up in a new life they never asked for. What do you do for work? I asked gently. I'm a home health aide, she said. I go to people's homes. I help them. I clean, cook, and make sure they don't fall. And your husband? I asked. Her breath caught like it hit a wall. He drove a delivery van, she said. He was sick for a while, but we thought he was getting better. She pressed her palm to her chest, like she was trying to hold her heart in place. And this ticket came when? I asked. The day after the funeral, she whispered. I still had the funeral program in my car. The flowers were in the back seat. The courtroom was quiet. You could hear paper shift. A person in the gallery cleared their throat, then stopped. Then I noticed movement to the right. A man walked in like he owned the room, Damon Klein. He didn't look at Marisol like she was a person. He looked at her like she was a stain on a clean floor. He held a leather folder under his arm. His shoes were shiny. His belt had a big silver buckle with a brand logo I recognized. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Your Honor," he said, "I'm here on behalf of Klein Property Enforcement. That vehicle interfered with our operations." I raised my hand a little. "Sir," I said, calm, "this is traffic court. Speak respectfully." He lifted his eyebrows like I had told him the sky was green. "Of course," Damon said. Then he glanced at Marisol and smirked. "I just hope we're not going to turn this into a crying contest." A soft wave of reaction moved through the gallery. Not loud, but I felt it. Like a group of people all breathed in at the same time. I leaned forward slightly. "Mr. I asked. "Klein," he said quickly. "Damon Klein." "Mr. Klein," I said, "you will keep your comments focused on facts, no personal shots." He shrugged like it didn't matter. "Yes, Your Honor," he said, but his tone said the opposite. ACT 2, escalation. The first confrontation came fast. Damon flipped open his folder and pulled out a glossy printed photo like he was showing off a new car. "This is the vehicle," he said, tapping the page. "Parked right where it shouldn't be, blocking a tow zone. We had a client coming in, a high-value client." Marisol's eyes widened. She looked at the photo and then looked away like it burned. I studied the photo. It showed a small, older sedan, a few dents, a faded bumper sticker. In the back seat you could see something dark and soft. Funeral flowers wrapped in black paper. I pointed to it. "What are those in the back seat?" I asked. Damon's mouth tightened for half a second. "Not my concern," he said. "A tow zone is a tow zone." That was the minor disrespect. Quick, sharp, like a slap you pretend it didn't hurt. I turned to the clerk. "Do we have the original citation?" I asked. The clerk handed it up. Evidence number 1 was right there on the ticket itself. The officer wrote, "Vehicle observed at 9:12 a.m. in tow zone. Driver absent. Vehicle remained 18 minutes. 18 minutes. I looked up. "Mr. Klein, 18 minutes, I said. "That's the length of a cartoon episode." Damon gave a short laugh. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Time doesn't change the rule." I looked at Marisol. "Ms. Vega," I said, "why were you parked there?" Her hands shook as she spoke. "I was bringing food trays back inside," she said. "People were still there. My mother-in-law. She fainted earlier. I was helping her. And my kids. They were asking for water. Everything was moving at once." She blinked hard, like she was trying not to spill tears in front of strangers. Damon leaned in. "See?" he said. "Excuses. Everyone has a sad story." I held up my hand again. "Mr. Klein," I said, "you're not here to judge her. That's my job." He sat back, but he rolled his eyes. The second confrontation came when Damon tried to lean on power. "Your Honor," he said, "I'm sure you know my family. We manage half the lots downtown. We keep things running. We donate to city projects. We have relationships." Relationships. That word in a courtroom is like smoke. It means someone is trying to cover the truth. I stared at him. "Mr. Klein," I said, "in my courtroom, your last name doesn't buy you special rules." He smiled again, but now it was sharper. "I'm not asking for special rules," he said. "I'm asking for normal rules. If we let her off, every person will park in tow zones. Then what? Chaos." Marisol flinched at the word chaos, like he had thrown it at her. I turned to the case notes. Then the clerk handed me a small packet marked supplement. Inside were call logs from the enforcement company's dispatch line. They were submitted because the city had received complaints about aggressive ticketing near the church. Evidence number 2. The log showed something interesting. At 9:10 a.m. the enforcer wrote, "Possible violation near St. Bridget's." At 9:11 a.m. a call came in from D. Klein. At 9:12 a.m. the ticket was issued, 1 minute after Damon called. I looked up slowly. "Mr. Klein," I said, "did you call the dispatcher right before this ticket was written?" He didn't answer right away. "I make lots of calls," he said. "I run a business." "Did you call about this car?" I asked. He shrugged. I might have, he said. It was in the way. Marisol's face changed. Her sadness shifted into something else, hurt mixed with disbelief. I wasn't in the way, she whispered. I was burying my husband. Damon chuckled like the words were silly. That sound made my stomach tighten. The third confrontation came when Damon crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I asked the city prosecutor if there was any video from nearby cameras. Providence is full of cameras now. Many lots have them. The prosecutor nodded. We have a short clip from the church's side camera, she said. The church agreed to share it. Evidence number 3. The clerk played it on the monitor. The video was grainy, but clear enough. Marisol's car was parked near a curb. Marisol came out holding a tray of food. She moved slowly, like her body was heavy. She stopped and leaned against the car for a moment, head down. Then Damon appeared. He walked up with 2 other men. Damon pointed at her car. He said something to the enforcer. Then he stepped closer to the back window and looked inside. He saw the flowers. He paused. Then, even on silent video, I could tell what happened. His face twisted. He laughed. He tapped the glass with his knuckles and said something to Marisol. Marisol's shoulders in the video dropped, like she had been hit. The next frame showed the enforcer writing the ticket, while Damon stood there watching, arms crossed. I felt the courtroom shift. People leaned forward. A woman in the gallery put her hand over her mouth. I looked at Damon. Mr. Klein, I said quietly, what did you say to her at her husband's funeral? Damon scoffed. I didn't know it was a funeral, he said, even though the video showed the flowers and even though the church sign was in frame. Marisol spoke, voice shaking. He said, your dead husband won't pay your fines. The gallery made a sound, half gasp, half growl. I kept my voice even, but I could feel heat rising behind my eyes. Mr. Klein, I said, did you say that? Damon lifted his chin. I said something like it, he admitted. I mean, it's true. Then he turned toward Marisol. And don't look at me like that, he said. You chose to park wrong. That was the insult, not just to her, but to the whole room, to grief, to decency. And then he aimed higher. He looked at me. Your Honor, he said, I'm done pretending. She wants pity. You want to play hero. But she broke the rule, so stop acting like you're Santa Claus in a robe. The courtroom froze. I didn't move. My face didn't move. But inside, something cracked. Viral moment. Damon leaned forward, voice loud enough to bounce off the walls. Her husband is dead, he said. So what? Rules don't cry. For 10 seconds, there was nothing. No coughs, no papers, no shoe shifting, just silence. Then the gallery erupted. Shame, someone shouted. That's disgusting, another voice called out. A man stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. The bailiff stepped toward the gallery with his hand raised, trying to calm it down. I felt my throat tighten. My eyes burned. I blinked once, then twice. I've been in court for a long time. I've seen pain. I've seen people lose jobs, homes, and loved ones. But when someone makes a joke out of death, right in front of the person who is still bleeding from it, it hits like a punch to the heart. My hands were still folded, but my fingers curled. I could feel my voice trying to rise, to snap. Instead, I took one slow breath. I looked at Marisol. She was crying silently now, shoulders shaking, trying to be small, trying to disappear. And I realized something. This wasn't just about a ticket. This was about whether my courtroom was going to be a place where money and pride could stomp on a widow and call it the rules. I felt my eyes fill. I hated that it happened in front of everyone. But I couldn't stop it. My voice came out softer than before. Mr. Klein, I said, sit down. Act 3, The Reckoning. I leaned forward and I spoke slowly so every word would land. Damon Klein, I said. Damon Klein, Damon Klein. I said his name 3 times on purpose because people like him often float through life without anyone saying their name like it matters, like it comes with weight, like it comes with responsibility. Damon Klein, I repeated. You came into my courtroom wearing expensive clothes, and a smile like this is a game show. He opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. No, I said, you will listen. I pointed gently toward Marisol. That woman right there, I said, did not walk into a tow zone for fun. She was walking out of a funeral. I tapped the screen where the flowers were frozen in the video. You saw the flowers, I said. You paused. You laughed. Then you made sure the ticket was written. Damon shook his head. You can't prove He started. I cut in, still calm. I don't need to prove what I can already see, I said. You told us with your own mouth. You said, your dead husband won't pay your fines. Then you came in here and said, rules don't cry. I let those words hang. You know what else doesn't cry, Damon Klein? I said. He stared at me. A parking meter doesn't cry, I said. A tow sign doesn't cry. A piece of paper with a fine on it doesn't cry. I swallowed hard. But people cry, I said. Widows cry, children cry when they ask why daddy isn't coming home. Mothers cry when they watch their sons get lowered into the ground. My voice wavered. I hated that it wavered, but I didn't hide it. That's not weakness, I said. That's being human. I looked straight at him. What do you call it? I asked. When you have the power to show mercy and you choose to show cruelty instead. Cruelty means being mean on purpose. He shifted in his seat. His confidence flickered for the first time. I went on. You talked about normal rules, I said. You talked about chaos, but you didn't talk about respect. You didn't talk about kindness. You didn't talk about what it means to live in a city with other human beings. I leaned back slightly. In Providence, I said, we have rich people and poor people. We have people who drive new cars and people who drive cars held together by hope. A quiet murmur moved through the room. Ms. Vega works in other people's homes, I said. She lifts them when they can't stand. She cleans messes nobody wants to touch. She does it to pay rent and keep food in front of her kids. I looked at Marisol. Ms. Vega, I said, how many kids do you have? 2, she whispered. How old? I asked. 6 and 9, she said. I nodded. And Damon Klein, I said, turning back, you come in here and act like she's dirt on your shoe. He tried to smile again, but it didn't fit. You said I want to play hero, I told him. No, I want to play judge, and being a judge means I don't just read rules. I look at people. I paused. Damon Klein, I said, do you have anyone you love? His face tightened. That's not relevant, he said. It's always relevant, I said. Because if you love someone, you should understand what it means to lose them. And if you don't understand, then you have a hole inside you that money can't fill. The room was still. Even Damon stopped moving. I took another breath. You could have walked away, I said. You could have said, it's a funeral, let it go. But you made a phone call, you pushed it. You wanted her to feel small. I leaned in. And now I'm going to teach you something, I said softly. In my courtroom, we don't use rules as a hammer to smash people who are already broken. Act 4, Sentencing. I sat up straight. My voice got firm, the way it has to in moments like this. Ms. Vega, I said, your ticket is dismissed. Marisol's head snapped up. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tears rolled down her cheeks faster now, but these were different tears. Relief, the kind that lets you breathe again. I held up my hand toward her. Ms. Vega, I said, I'm sorry for your loss. I truly am. And you will not carry this fine on top of your grief. Then I turned to Damon. Now, Damon Klein, I said, you are not getting a lecture and a handshake. You crossed lines in this courtroom, and you crossed lines outside of it. He shifted. This is traffic court, he said. You can't punish me. I'm not the one who got the ticket. I nodded once. You're right, I said. This started as a ticket case, but your behavior in this courtroom is my business, and your conduct as a representative of an enforcement company matters. Then I spoke in stages, clear and punchy. First, I said, I am referring your company's practices near St. Bridget's Church to the City Licensing Board for review. That means the city will examine how your enforcement team is operating. Damon's smile vanished. Second, I said, for your behavior today, I am finding you in contempt. Contempt means you disrespected the court in a serious way. The bailiff took one step closer. You could hear the soft jingle of handcuffs at his belt. Damon's eyes widened. You can't be serious, he said. I am serious, I said. Third, I continued, you will pay a financial penalty of $1,500. That covers a court fine for contempt and a restitution payment. Restitution means paying back for harm. Damon opened his mouth, but I kept going. $500 will go to a local grief support program that helps families after a death, I said, and $1,000 will go directly to Ms. Vega for funeral-related expenses. Marisol gasped and shook her head fast. No, no, she began. I looked at her kindly. Ms. Vega, I said, you don't have to accept it if you don't want it, but I want Damon Klein to feel the weight of what he tried to do. I turned back to him. Fourth, I said, community service, not a random place, not something you can brag about, something that teaches you what grief looks like. I paused. You will complete 80 hours of community service, I said, at the Providence Family Bereavement Center. Bereavement is another word for grief after someone dies. I explained it right away because that's a big word. You will be there every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for 5 weeks, I said, and every Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for 5 weeks. That schedule is fixed. Damon's face turned pale. You will do tasks assigned by the supervisor, I said, setting up chairs, cleaning rooms, serving meals at support meetings, no special treatment, no phone calls to relationships. Fifth, I said, public accountability. Accountability means you own what you did. You will write a handwritten apology letter, I said, to Ms. Vega and her children. Handwritten means pen and paper, not typed, not printed. You will read it out loud to me in this courtroom at your review hearing. Damon swallowed. And you will make a short public service message, I said, a 60-second video, court-approved, about respect and compassion. You will deliver it at 2 high schools as a guest speaker, alongside a counselor, not alone. You will tell teenagers that cruelty is not strength. Damon shook his head. This is insane, he muttered. I looked at him hard. You know what was insane, I said, saying, rules don't cry, to a widow. The gallery went quiet again. And because you tried to intimidate the process today, I said, your driver's license will be suspended for 30 days. He jerked upright. For what? He snapped. I didn't even drive. I held his gaze. For using your position to pressure enforcement, I said, and for showing the kind of judgment that makes the public less safe. If you can't control your mouth and your power, you can't be trusted behind the wheel with other people's lives. I turned slightly to the bailiff. Bailiff, I said, take Mr. Klein into custody for 24 hours. The bailiff moved in. Damon stepped back. Wait, Your Honor, he said, voice rising. The bailiff took his arm. Damon tried to pull away, but the bailiff was steady. The handcuffs clicked shut. The sound echoed. Damon's face turned red with shock. I looked at him one last time before he was led away. This is not about revenge, I said. This is about learning. You will be back in 2 weeks, on March 3rd, for a review hearing. And when you come back, Damon Klein, I want to see a different man. Act 5. Aftermath. Transformation Arc. 2 weeks later, Damon walked back into Providence Municipal Court looking smaller. Same face, same hair, but his clothes were different. No bright designer jacket, no loud belt buckle, just a plain dark sweater and simple shoes. I watched him walk to the front. He didn't smirk, he didn't laugh, he didn't look bored, he looked tired. I asked the supervisor from the Providence Family Bereavement Center to speak. She held a clipboard. Mr. Klein has completed 32 of his 80 hours, she said. He arrived on time. He did the work. He cleaned after meetings. He listened. She paused. And last Saturday, she said, a little boy asked him where his dad went. Mr. Klein didn't answer fast. He sat down and let the boy talk. He stayed after his shift ended. The courtroom was quiet again, but this time it was a softer quiet. I looked at Damon. "Do you have your letter?" I asked. He nodded and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. It looked worn at the edges, like he had opened it and closed it many times. His hand shook as he began to read. He said he was sorry, not in a fancy way, in a simple way. He said he was wrong. He said he thought rules were the most important thing, but now he knew people were. When he got to the line about the kids, his voice cracked. He stopped. He took a breath, and he kept going. I felt my eyes sting again, not because I wanted drama, because sometimes, when you see someone finally understand the pain they caused, it hits you deep. I looked at Marisol. She was there with her sister. She listened, still guarded but present. When Damon finished, he turned toward her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I can't fix what I did, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life not being that person again." Marisol didn't clap, she didn't smile, but she nodded once, small. That nod mattered. Final scene. Moral. After court ended, I sat alone for a moment in my chair. The courtroom was empty. The air still carried echoes of voices, like waves after a boat passes. I thought about Marisol walking back to her car, still missing her husband, still carrying grief like a heavy coat. And I thought about Damon learning something that should have been taught long ago. Rules matter. They keep order. They help us share the road and the city. But rules without compassion are like a streetlight with no power. It stands there, but it doesn't help anyone. In my courtroom, I don't just look at what happened on paper. I look at what happened in a human heart. Because at the end of the day, justice is not only about punishment. Justice is also about dignity. And dignity is something every person deserves, even on their worst day. My final thought was simple. A good city is not judged by how it treats the powerful. It is judged by how it treats the broken. Viral quote cards. "Her husband is dead, so what? Rules don't cry." Damon Klein. "In my courtroom, we don't use rules as a hammer to smash people who are already broken." Judge Frank Caprio. "A parking meter doesn't cry, but people cry." Judge Frank Caprio, key. Moments for thumbnails. Damon Klein smirks in designer white jacket as the widow wipes tears. The video freeze frame shows funeral flowers in the back seat as Damon points at the car. Bailiff clicks handcuffs on Damon while the courtroom watches in stunned silence.